Discipline is not your problem. Misunderstanding discipline is. You don't lack motivation. You lack systems that don't destroy you. You've been told discipline means grinding harder, sleeping less, and pushing through pain. That's not discipline. That's slow self-destruction. Real discipline is quiet. It doesn't beg for applause. It doesn't rely on motivation. It doesn't burn you out. This audiobook will teach you how to become ruthlessly consistent, mentally unshakable, and internally calm, while everyone else keeps mistaking exhaustion for progress. By the end, discipline won't feel heavy. It will feel automatic. Chapter 1. Stop romanticizing hard work. Hard work has been sold to you as virtue, as proof, as moral superiority. If you're tired, you must be doing something right. If you're exhausted, you must be serious. If you're overwhelmed, you must be committed. That story sounds noble, but it keeps people stuck for decades. That you work hard does not mean you are disciplined. It does not show you are making progress. Hard work without direction is just suffering with a story attached. And most people are not disciplined. They're just busy and proud of it. Let's strip the fantasy away. Hard work feels good because it hides confusion. Hard work gives you something to point to. I'm trying. I'm grinding. At least I'm doing something. It gives you emotional relief. But emotional relief is not the same thing as results. When you don't know what truly matters, you work harder on everything. You confuse motion with movement, noise with signal. And the world rewards this confusion. People praise effort more than outcomes. They clap for exhaustion. They admire sacrifice. No one asks the uncomfortable question, is this effort actually moving anything forward? So people keep working and working and working until they burn out. Burnout is not caused by too much work. This matters, so listen carefully. Burnout is rarely caused by working too hard. It's caused by working hard on the wrong things for too long. Burnout is misalignment stretched over time. You can work long hours on something meaningful and feel energized. You can work short hours on something pointless and feel drained. Why? Because the nervous system knows when effort is wasted. Your body keeps score. Your mind keeps score. When effort doesn't compound, resistance builds. When progress is invisible, motivation decays. When the work lacks direction, fatigue multiplies. That's why some people collapse after easy jobs and others feel alive building difficult things. The difference isn't toughness, it's trajectory. Discipline does not mean doing more. This is where most people get it wrong. They think discipline means more hours, more goals, more tasks, more pressure. That's not discipline. That's panic dressed up as ambition. Real discipline starts with elimination. Before you add structure, you subtract chaos. Before you optimize effort, you remove waste. Before you work harder, you decide what not to touch. The disciplined person asks, what actually matters? What compounds over time? What creates leverage instead of fatigue? Everyone else just stays busy. Most of your work does not deserve your energy. This is uncomfortable but necessary. A large portion of what you do every day does not move your life forward. It just fills time, protects ego, avoids harder decisions. You answer messages that don't matter. You attend conversations that lead to nowhere. You chase tasks that look productive but change nothing. And then you wonder why you're tired. You're tired because your energy is leaking everywhere. Discipline is learning to say, this is not important enough for my life force. That sentence alone would free most people.
If it drains you and doesn't compound, it's not discipline. This is a rule, not a suggestion. Some efforts pay you back with interest, others only take. Compounding efforts build skills that stack, create assets that grow, strengthen identity, reduce future effort. Non-compounding efforts demand constant input, reset to zero every day, depend on mood, create no lasting advantage. If you are exhausted and nothing is easier than it was 6 months ago, you are not being disciplined. You are being exploited by your own habits. Suffering is not a requirement for growth. Another myth you were fed. Pain is not proof. Struggle is not validation. Difficulty is not always necessary. Some growth is uncomfortable, yes, but unnecessary suffering is not noble. It's inefficient. People stay stuck because they believe if it's hard, it must be right. No, sometimes it's hard because it's wrong, because it lacks structure, because it lacks clarity, because it lacks boundaries. Discipline is not about how much you can endure. It's about how intelligently you apply pressure. Busy people avoid the question that matters. Here is the question disciplined people ask early. What would make most of this unnecessary? Disciplined people avoid this question because it threatens their identity. If you remove busy work, you remove the excuse. You remove the performance. You remove the story. And now you're exposed. Now results matter. That's why people cling to hard work. It lets them hide. Clarity is the real source of energy. When your work is aligned, you need less motivation. You recover faster. You tolerate discomfort better. Why? Because the mind stops fighting the direction. Clarity reduces internal resistance. Resistance is what drains you. This is why discipline without clarity leads to burnout, and discipline with clarity feels calm. The same effort, different outcome. Stop proving, start directing. Most people are trying to prove something, that they're serious, that they're hardworking, that they deserve success. Discipline isn't about proving, it's about directing. Directing attention, directing energy, directing time. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you start building leverage. That's when work becomes lighter, even as results grow heavier. The shift you must make. From I need to work harder to I need to work on fewer things that matter more. From being busy means I'm disciplined to being selective means I'm disciplined. From I'll rest when it's done to I design work that doesn't destroy me. This shift alone will save you years. Strong takeaway. Hard work is not the goal. Discipline is not effort. Discipline is alignment repeated daily. And here's the deeper truth. You cannot sustain disciplined behavior if it conflicts with who you believe you are. That's why the next chapter matters, because until discipline becomes identity, you'll always fall back into overwork, burnout, and self-betrayal. In the next chapter, you'll learn why discipline sticks only when it stops being something you do and becomes someone you are. And once that shift happens, you won't need to romanticize hard work ever again.
Chapter 2. Discipline is identity, not effort. Most people are fighting the wrong battle. They wake up every day asking the same tired question. How do I stay consistent? How do I push myself today? How do I force discipline? And every day they lose. Not because they're weak, not because they lack potential, but because they are using effort to fight an identity problem. Let's get something clear, early and brutally honest. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. Always. Why effort fails over time. Effort is temporary. Identity is permanent. Effort depends on mood.
Identity does not. Effort asks, do I feel like it today? Identity says, this is what we do. This is why effort-based discipline collapses under stress. The moment life applies pressure, fatigue, rejection, boredom, failure, effort folds. Identity doesn't. You can't motivate your way through life forever. You will get tired. You will get distracted. You will get discouraged. When that happens, effort disappears, but identity remains. Most people try to act disciplined without being disciplined. This is the quiet sabotage. They want the results of discipline without adopting the self-image of a disciplined person. They say, I'm trying to be consistent. I'm working on discipline. I just need to push harder. But listen carefully. Disciplined people don't try to be consistent. They don't work on discipline. They simply behave in alignment with who they believe they are. And that difference changes everything. Identity is a self-fulfilling loop. Here's how identity works. You believe something about yourself. You act in alignment with that belief. The action reinforces the belief. The belief strengthens. Loop closed. If you believe, I'm inconsistent, your behavior will confirm it. If you believe, I quit when things get hard, your actions will obey. Not because you want them to, but because the brain protects identity at all costs. Even destructive identities feel safe because they are familiar. Why willpower is a trap? Willpower is expensive. It drains fast. It requires constant resistance. It collapses under emotional load. That's why relying on willpower is a losing strategy. Identity, on the other hand, is cheap. It doesn't argue. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't need pep talks. When discipline becomes identity, behavior becomes automatic. You don't debate whether to show up. You don't negotiate with excuses. You don't need hype. You act because not acting would feel wrong. Stop asking, how do I stay consistent? That question is flawed. It assumes inconsistency is a behavior problem. It's not. It's an identity problem. Instead, ask this: who doesn't quit? Not what do they do, not what system do they use, but who are they being? Because behavior follows being. A person who sees themselves as disciplined does disciplined things, even on bad days. Not perfectly, not intensely, but consistently. Identity-based discipline survives bad days. This is where real power lives. Effort-based discipline works only when you're motivated, you're rested, you're inspired. Identity-based discipline works when you're tired, you're bored, you're emotionally off. Because identity doesn't depend on feelings. A disciplined identity says, we show up even if it's ugly. We don't quit because today feels heavy. We don't negotiate with moods. That's why identity-based discipline is stable. It bends, but it doesn't break. Small actions shape identity faster than big goals. Most people think identity changes after success. Wrong. Identity changes through evidence, and the brain accepts small evidence faster than big promises. You don't need massive wins. You need repeated proof. Each time you do what you said you would do, you cast a vote for a new identity. Each time you break your word to yourself, you reinforce the old one. This is why discipline starts small, not because small is easier, but because small is believable. Stop trying to feel like a disciplined person. Feelings follow action, not the other way around. Waiting to feel disciplined before acting keeps you trapped forever. Disciplined people often don't feel disciplined. They feel tired, neutral, uninspired. They act anyway, and afterward the identity strengthens. Action first, identity second, emotion last. Always. Language shapes identity. Pay attention to how you speak about yourself. I'm bad at consistency. I always fall off. I'm not disciplined like that. Those are not observations, they are commands. Your nervous system listens, your behavior obeys. Disciplined people use different language. I don't skip twice. I'm the type who finishes. I do what I said I would do. Even before it's fully true, especially before it's fully true. Discipline is not a personality, it's a standard. You don't need to become a different person. You need to raise your internal standard. Standards shape identity. When your standard becomes, I don't quit on myself, discipline stops being optional. It becomes normal. And what's normal requires no effort. This is why most people relapse. They change tactics, they change routines, they change goals, but they never change identity. So under stress, they revert. The old identity pulls them back like gravity, not because they're broken, but because identity always wins over intention. The identity shift you must make, from I'm trying to be disciplined to I am someone who shows up, from I need motivation to I don't negotiate with excuses, from I'll do it when I feel ready to I do it because this is who I am. This is not arrogance, it's alignment. Discipline is proof you trust yourself. Every time you act in alignment with your word, trust builds, and trust is the foundation of calm discipline. People who lack discipline often don't lack drive, they lack self-trust. Identity-based discipline restores it, quietly, relentlessly. Chapter takeaway. Discipline will never stick until it stops being something you force and becomes someone you are. Effort fades, identity endures. But identity alone is not enough, because even disciplined identities can collapse if they rely on constant decision-making. That's why the next chapter is critical. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to build systems that think for you, so discipline no longer lives in your head, but in your environment. Because the strongest discipline is the one that doesn't need you to be strong every day.
Chapter 3. Build systems that think for you. If discipline still feels heavy, you are thinking too much. If every day feels like a debate, you are relying on the wrong tool. Willpower is not strength, it is fragile. It works when life is calm. It collapses when life gets loud. That's why most people fail quietly, not because they don't want discipline, but because they expect themselves to decide correctly every day. That is a losing game. Willpower is unreliable. Systems don't argue. Willpower asks questions. Do I feel like it? Should I do this now? Can I skip today? Systems don't ask. They execute. They don't care how you feel. They don't negotiate with your mood. They don't get tired. When discipline depends on willpower, every decision drains you. When discipline is system-based, decisions disappear and energy returns. Most people live in daily negotiation. They negotiate everything: when to start, how long to continue, whether today counts. Every negotiation creates friction, and friction creates fatigue. By noon, they are mentally exhausted from deciding what a disciplined person already decided long ago. This is why discipline feels hard, not because the actions are hard, but because the thinking never stops. A disciplined life is pre-decided. This is the difference maker. Disciplined people don't wake up asking, "What should I do today?" They already know. Their routines are not random. Their habits are not optional. Their structure is not flexible to emotion. They decide once, then they execute repeatedly. That's not rigidity. That's freedom. Freedom from internal chaos. Systems remove emotional decision-making. Emotion is not the enemy,
but it is a terrible manager. When emotions lead, consistency dies. Systems put emotion in the passenger seat. You can feel tired and still act. You can feel unmotivated and still follow the plan. You can feel doubtful and still execute because the system already decided. Discipline stops being personal. It becomes mechanical, and that's exactly why it works. Why motivation-based discipline fails? Motivation is reactive. It depends on inspiration, feedback, mood. Systems are proactive. They don't wait for energy. They create it through momentum. When you rely on motivation, you start strong, you stop early, and you restart often. When you rely on systems, you start calmly, you continue steadily, and you rarely restart. Momentum replaces hype. Systems protect you on bad days. This is their real power. On good days, anyone can be disciplined. On bad days, only systems survive. Stress, fatigue, doubt, disappointment. These are not exceptions. They are the environment. If your discipline collapses under pressure, it was never discipline. It was mood cooperation. Systems assume bad days will happen, and they function anyway. Examples of systems that think for you. Not complicated, not impressive, effective. Fixed start times, default routines, minimum non-negotiables, preset rules. A system might say, no 0 days. Start at 7 a.m. no matter what. 2 minutes minimum. Stop if needed. Notice something. The system doesn't demand intensity. It demands presence. Presence compounds. Why simple systems outperform complex ones? Complex systems require attention. Attention creates friction. Simple systems run quietly. They don't impress. They don't adapt to ego. They exist to be followed, not admired. The goal of a system is not optimization, it's obedience. If you can't follow it on your worst day, it's not a system, it's a fantasy. Systems reduce decision fatigue. Every decision costs energy. What to do, when to do it, how to do it. By the end of the day, your brain is drained. Systems eliminate decisions. The less you decide, the more energy you keep. This is why disciplined people often appear calm. They are not stronger, they are less mentally taxed. Discipline fails when it lives in your head. Mental discipline is unstable. Life interrupts. People distract. Emotions intrude. Systems live outside your head. Calendars, environments, triggers, rules. They hold the discipline for you. When your mind is weak, the system is strong. If your discipline depends on mood, it will collapse. This is non-negotiable. Mood fluctuates, stress spikes, energy dips. Systems don't care. They ask only one thing: did you show up? That's it. And showing up consistently beats pushing hard occasionally. Stop trying to feel disciplined. You don't need to feel anything. You need a structure that removes the need to feel. When discipline is systemized, emotion becomes irrelevant, and burnout disappears. The system-building shift from "I'll do it when I feel like it" to "it happens at this time." From "I'll decide later" to "it's already decided." From "I need motivation" to "I follow the system." This shift removes friction before it appears. Chapter takeaway. Systems carry discipline when willpower cannot. But here's the trap. If your systems are too demanding, too rigid, too intense, they will still break you. That's why the next chapter matters. In the next chapter, you'll learn why lowering the bar and never missing creates unstoppable momentum, because the most powerful system is the one you can follow forever.
Chapter 4. Lower the bar and never miss.
Most people don't fail because they aim too low. They fail because they aim too high, too fast, and too emotionally. They confuse ambition with pressure. They confuse intensity with commitment. They suffer with seriousness, and then they burn out. Not slowly, not quietly, but predictably. Let's say this cleanly. Consistency beats intensity every time. Every single time. Intensity feels powerful until it breaks you. Intensity feels good in the beginning. It gives you a rush, a sense of identity, a story you can tell yourself. I'm all in. I'm pushing hard. I'm not like everyone else. But intensity is unstable. It depends on emotion, on adrenaline, on novelty, and novelty always fades. When it does, intensity turns into resistance. Resistance turns into avoidance. Avoidance turns into guilt, and guilt is where discipline goes to die. The fastest way to burn out is aiming too high too early. This is one of the most common self-sabotage patterns. You decide to change your life, so you overhaul everything. New routine, new habits, new schedule, new standards. You demand perfection from day one. And for a short while, it works. Then life interrupts. You miss a day, then another. Then the whole system collapses. Why? Because the bar was never designed for reality. It was designed for ego. Discipline does not require heroic days. Heroic days are expensive. They demand energy you don't always have. They require focus you cannot sustain. They rely on motivation you cannot control. Disciplined lives are not built on heroic days. They're built on boring days done consistently. You don't need massive effort. You need repeatable effort. Effort you can deliver when you're tired, you're busy, you're distracted, you're emotionally flat. That's the standard. Lowering the bar is a strategy, not weakness. This is where the ego resists. Lowering the bar feels like cheating, like settling, like doing less than you're capable of. But discipline is not about proving capacity. It's about protecting continuity. The goal is not to impress yourself. The goal is never to break the chain. A low bar you hit daily beats a high bar you hit occasionally, every time. Small actions create psychological wins. Every time you show up, even in a small way, your brain records a win. Wins build identity. Identity fuels discipline. This is why minimums matter. A minimum protects consistency, preserves self-trust, keeps the chain alive. It doesn't matter how small the action is. It matters that it happens. No 0 days. Most people quit after missing once, not because they failed, but because they overreacted to failure. They miss a day, then think, what's the point now? That's ego talking. Disciplined people think differently. They don't aim for perfection. They aim for fast recovery. Missing once is normal. Missing twice is a pattern. Lowering the bar makes recovery immediate. The chain is more important than the day. This is a mindset shift. Today doesn't need to be impressive. It needs to exist. The chain is the asset, not the individual link. Break the chain and momentum resets. Protect the chain and effort decreases over time. This is why disciplined people value streaks, not because streaks are magical, but because they remove decision-making. You don't ask if you'll show up, you protect the chain. Intensity creates all or nothing thinking. This is dangerous. I have to do it perfectly or not at all. If I can't go hard, I won't go. If it's not a full session, it doesn't count. That thinking kills discipline. Lowering the bar destroys all or nothing logic. Something always counts. Showing up always matters. Discipline is built on trust, not force.
Every time you meet your minimum, you keep a promise to yourself. Promises kept build trust. Trust reduces resistance. When you trust yourself, discipline feels calm. When you don't, every action feels forced. Lowering the bar protects self-trust. What lowering the bar actually looks like? Not quitting, not slacking, not giving up. It looks like shorter sessions, smaller goals, easier starts, clear minimums. It's not about doing less forever. It's about doing something every time. Intensity can be added later. Consistency must come first. This is why most people never compound. They keep restarting. New plan, new burst of effort, new collapse. Compounding requires continuity, and continuity requires a bar low enough to step over on your worst day. The real goal of discipline, not excellence, not dominance, not perfection, reliability. Be someone who shows up, even when it's unimpressive, especially when it's unimpressive. Lower the bar and never miss. This is the rule. You don't need to feel proud. You need to stay consistent. The pride comes later, after the chain is unbroken. Chapter takeaway. Lowering the bar protects consistency. Consistency builds momentum. Momentum reduces effort. But there is one more mistake that destroys even consistent people. They treat rest as weakness, recovery as laziness, stopping as failure. That's why the next chapter matters. In the next chapter, you'll learn why mastering recovery is not optional. It's a discipline skill. Because discipline that never recovers eventually collapses, and sustainable discipline is the only kind that wins.
Chapter 5. Master Recovery like you master work. Most people don't burn out because they're lazy. They burn out because they don't know when to stop. They treat rest like a luxury, like something you earn after exhaustion, like weakness disguised as taking it easy. That belief quietly destroys discipline. So let's be direct. Rest is not a reward. It is a requirement. And if you don't schedule it, your body will force it through fatigue, illness, loss of focus, or collapse. Burnout is not sudden. It's accumulated neglect. Burnout doesn't arrive overnight. It builds silently. One skipped rest day, one late night justified as necessary, one more push when you should have stopped. You don't feel it immediately. That's the trap. You feel productive, capable, strong, until one day effort feels heavy. Focus disappears. Everything irritates you. That's not weakness. That's unpaid recovery debt coming due. Disciplined people plan recovery the same way they plan work. Undisciplined people rest randomly when they crash. Disciplined people rest deliberately before they need to. They don't ask, "Do I feel tired enough to stop?" They ask, "What level of recovery keeps me consistent long term?" That's a completely different mindset. Recovery is not a break from discipline. Recovery is discipline. Relentless effort feels admirable and fails long term. Relentless effort looks impressive. It makes good stories. It gets praise. It feeds ego. But relentless effort is unstable. It assumes infinite energy. It ignores biology. It disrespects limits. And limits always win. Sustainable effort, on the other hand, is boring, quiet, predictable, and that's why it works. Why rest feels hard for driven people? Because rest threatens identity. If you've built your self-worth on productivity, stopping feels like losing value. So you keep going, even when quality drops, even when focus fades, even when joy disappears. That's not discipline, that's attachment. Real discipline knows when effort stops producing returns. Discipline includes knowing when to stop. This is a skill, not intuition. Stopping at the right time preserves energy, protects focus,
prevents resentment. Stopping too late creates burnout, builds resistance, destroys consistency. Disciplined people don't quit when they're exhausted. They stop before exhaustion. That's how they last. Unplanned recovery is the root of burnout. If recovery is accidental, burnout is inevitable. Why? Because when rest depends on collapse, collapse becomes the signal. That trains your nervous system to associate work with pain. Eventually, resistance appears before you even start. That's burnout. Planned recovery prevents that association. Recovery is not just sleep. Sleep matters, but recovery is broader. Recovery includes mental disengagement, reduced stimulation, emotional decompression, physical restoration. If your rest is scrolling, stressing, or numbing, you're not recovering, you're distracting. Discipline requires real recovery, not avoidance. You don't need more rest, you need better recovery. This is important. Burnout doesn't always mean you need to do less. Sometimes it means you need to recover smarter. Short, intentional recovery beats long, chaotic breaks. A calm nervous system restores faster than a distracted one. Recovery is about quality, not duration. Why recovery makes discipline easier? Because a recovered system resists less. When you're rested, starting feels lighter. Focus lasts longer. Effort feels cleaner. You don't need motivation. You don't need force. Discipline flows when resistance is low. Recovery lowers resistance. The mistake of earning rest. This belief ruins people. I'll rest after I finish. I'll sleep when this phase is over. I'll recover later. Later rarely comes, and even when it does, the damage is already done. Rest earned through exhaustion is not rest, it's repair. Preventative recovery is discipline. Sustainable effort is strategic, not lazy. Let's be clear, rest is not quitting. Stopping is not failure. Slowing down is not weakness. Sustainable effort is intentional pacing. It's choosing longevity over ego, consistency over bursts, systems over strain. That's discipline at a higher level. Signs you are ignoring recovery? Pay attention. You feel constantly on edge. Small tasks feel heavy. You dread things you once enjoyed. Focus disappears quickly. Rest makes you anxious. These are not personality traits. They are warning signs. Ignoring them doesn't make you tough. It makes you fragile. Recovery is part of the system. Remember the systems from Chapter 3? Recovery belongs inside them. Scheduled stops, planned low days, built-in decompression. If recovery is optional, it will be skipped, and what gets skipped eventually breaks you. Discipline is calm, not chaotic. This is how you know you're doing it right. Disciplined people don't feel frantic. They don't feel constantly behind. They don't feel burned alive by their routines. Their effort is controlled. Their pace is steady. Their recovery is respected. Calm discipline lasts. Stop confusing pressure with progress. Pressure can create movement, but it cannot sustain it. Progress requires rhythm. Work, recover, repeat. Miss one part of the cycle, and the system collapses. The recovery shift you must make. From "I'll rest when I'm done" to "I rest so I can continue." From "rest is weakness" to "rest is maintenance." From "pushing harder fixes everything" to "recovering smarter fixes most things." This shift protects your future self. Discipline that ignores recovery always ends the same, with resentment, with exhaustion, with quitting. Not because you lacked discipline, but because you misunderstood it. Chapter Takeaway. Rest is not the opposite of discipline, it is a pillar of it. But recovery alone is not enough. You can rest perfectly and still sabotage yourself daily through unnecessary friction. That's why the next chapter matters. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to remove friction instead of adding pressure,
So discipline stops feeling like a fight and starts feeling natural. Because the most disciplined lives are not the most forceful. They are the most intelligently designed.
Chapter 6. Remove friction. Don't add pressure. Most people try to fix discipline by adding pressure. More rules, more goals, more punishment, more self-talk. And every time, the same thing happens. They hold it together for a while, then they snap. Not because they're weak, but because pressure is not design. Discipline doesn't fail because you lack force. It fails because your environment is working against you. Let's be clear from the start. The environment shapes behavior more than motivation ever will. Motivation is overrated. Environment is undefeated. Motivation is fragile. It fluctuates. It fades. It disappears under stress. Environment is constant. Your surroundings quietly push you towards certain behaviors, whether you're aware of it or not. If discipline feels like a fight, it's usually because you're fighting your own setup. No amount of willpower beats bad design. Why self-control is a losing strategy. Self-control sounds noble. Just say no. Just resist. Just be stronger. But self-control is a limited resource. Every act of resistance drains it. Every temptation taxes it. Every decision weakens it. If your discipline relies on constant resistance, collapse is inevitable. This is why disciplined people don't rely on self-control. They rely on friction. Friction decides what you do. Friction is how hard or easy an action is to perform. High friction equals avoidance. Low friction equals repetition. Your brain always chooses the path of least resistance, not because you're lazy, but because that's how survival wiring works. So the question is not, how do I force myself to behave? It's, how do I make the right behavior the easiest one? Discipline fails when friction is high. Look at where you struggle. Is the habit hard or is the setup terrible? If starting requires too many steps, too much preparation, too many decisions, you will resist, not consciously, automatically. Friction kills consistency long before motivation does. Make good habits effortless. This is design, not discipline. Effortless doesn't mean easy forever. It means easy to start. Remove barriers. Prepare in advance. Reduce steps. Create defaults. The less thinking required, the more consistent the action. Disciplined people don't push themselves, they remove obstacles. Make bad habits hard. This is the other side of the equation. Most people try to stop bad habits with shame and force. It doesn't work. Bad habits survive because they are convenient. Remove convenience, and the habit weakens. Add friction. Extra steps, delays, barriers. The brain avoids what's annoying. Use that. You are not failing. Your environment is failing. This is liberating. When you stop blaming yourself and start adjusting your surroundings, discipline stops feeling personal. You're not broken. You're just surrounded by triggers that reward the wrong behaviors. Change the environment, the behavior follows. Disciplined people design their days. They don't rely on mood. They don't trust impulse. They don't wait for inspiration. They structure, space, time, tools, so the default action aligns with their values. This is why they appear strong. They're not resisting more. They're resisting less. Pressure creates rebellion. The harder you push yourself, the more part of you wants to escape. This creates cycles of intense control, emotional backlash, collapse. Removing friction avoids this loop. You don't feel trapped, you feel guided. Discipline is not a battle, it's an arrangement. When discipline feels like war, you've already lost. Effective discipline feels boring, quiet, predictable, because nothing is fighting back. The environment is cooperating. Common friction mistakes.
Pay attention to these patterns, keeping temptations within reach, making good habits dependent on perfect conditions, overcomplicating routines, relying on memory instead of structure. Each one increases friction. Each one drains self-control. Reduce friction first, always. Before adding goals, rules, pressure, ask, what can I remove? Remove steps, remove triggers, remove decisions. This is how discipline becomes sustainable. Why disciplined people feel easier for some? It's not genetics, it's not talent, it's environment. Their setup supports their standards. Yours can too. Stop trying to be stronger than your surroundings. You don't win that fight. Design beats discipline. Structure beats willpower. Environment beats intention. Every time. The friction shift from I need more self-control to I need fewer temptations, from I'll just resist to I'll redesign, from I keep failing to my system needs adjustment. This shift removes shame and restores control. Discipline that feels natural is designed, not forced, not pressured, not dramatic, designed. And once designed correctly, it runs quietly in the background. Chapter Takeaway. When friction is low, discipline feels light. But even with perfect systems and supportive environments, there is one final trap: waiting. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting to feel confident. Waiting to feel certain. That hesitation kills momentum. That's why the next chapter matters. In the next chapter, you'll learn why discipline does not wait for readiness. It moves first and lets clarity catch up. Because action creates confidence, not the other way around.
Chapter 7. Stop waiting to feel ready. Waiting feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels like preparation. But most of the time, it's fear in a clean outfit. Let's be honest. You are not waiting because you are not ready. You're waiting because readiness feels safer than action. And that wait is costing you momentum every single day. So, hear this clearly. Discipline does not require confidence. Confidence is not the entry fee. Action is. Readiness is a myth that feels comfortable. Ready sounds reasonable. I just need more clarity. I want to feel confident first. I'll start when I'm sure. But readiness is undefined. It has no finish line. You can always prepare more. You can always learn more. You can always wait one more day. And that's why people get stuck there. Ready is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. Discipline cannot be built on something that shifts daily. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. This reverses everything you were taught. Most people believe, once I understand more, I'll act. Disciplined people know, once I act, I'll understand more. Clarity is not found in thinking, it's found in movement. You don't figure things out first, you move, then adjust. This is how progress actually happens. Confidence is a result, not a requirement. Confidence comes from evidence. Evidence comes from action. Waiting for confidence before acting is like waiting for strength before lifting. It doesn't work that way. Confidence grows after you show up, after you do the thing, after you survive discomfort. Disciplined people don't feel confident, they feel committed. Waiting to feel ready is disguised fear. This part is uncomfortable but necessary. Most hesitation is not logic, it's fear dressed up as intelligence. Fear of looking foolish, wasting effort, failing publicly, choosing wrong. So you wait, you gather information, you prepare, but nothing changes. Fear loves delays, it hates deadlines, and discipline does not negotiate with fear. Certainty is not coming. This needs to land.
You will not wake up one day feeling 100% sure, calm, and confident. That moment doesn't exist. Even disciplined people feel doubt. They feel uncertainty. They feel resistance. The difference is simple. They move anyway. Ruthless discipline moves before certainty arrives. This is the defining trait. Ruthless discipline says, I'll figure it out while moving. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It doesn't wait for confidence. It starts, messy, imperfect, incomplete, and improves through repetition. Hesitation drains more energy than action. People think action is exhausting. It's not. Hesitation is. Thinking about starting, debating timing, second-guessing decisions. That mental loop drains energy faster than effort ever will. Action releases tension. Hesitation builds it. This is why starting often feels like relief. Discipline is not about feeling ready. It's about being reliable. Reliability beats readiness. Being someone who starts on schedule beats someone who waits for the perfect moment. The disciplined person doesn't ask, do I feel ready? They ask, what's the next step? And then they take it. Perfectionism is another form of delay. This matters. Perfectionism sounds like high standards, but it functions like fear. If I can't do it right, I won't do it yet. If it won't be great, I'll wait. And waiting becomes permanent. Discipline accepts imperfection. It values progress over presentation. The goal is not flawless execution. The goal is forward motion. Disciplined people trust process, not feelings. Feelings fluctuate. Process holds. When you trust the process, you don't need to feel ready. You just follow the next step, step after step, day after day. That's how clarity forms. Starting small defeats fear. Fear thrives on magnitude. Big commitments feel overwhelming. Small actions feel manageable. This is why starting small works, not because small is impressive, but because small bypasses resistance. Once you start, fear loses leverage. You don't need to believe, you need to move. Belief is optional. Movement is not. Discipline does not require faith in the outcome. It requires obedience to the process. You can doubt and act. You can fear and act. You can feel unprepared and act. Action does not need emotional approval. The cost of waiting is invisible until it isn't. Waiting feels harmless, but time compounds whether you act or not. Days pass, weeks fade. Opportunities close quietly. You don't notice the loss immediately, but one day you look back and realize the cost was momentum, and momentum is hard to rebuild. Discipline moves first, emotions follow. This pattern repeats everywhere. Action first, identity strengthens, confidence grows, not the reverse. This is why disciplined people don't wait for alignment. They create it through action. Stop asking for permission from your feelings. Your feelings are not leaders. They are signals, useful but not authoritative. If you wait for feelings to approve action, discipline will always feel fragile. Decide, then act, then feel whatever comes. The readiness trap. Readiness keeps you comfortable and unchanged at the same time. Discipline breaks that loop, not violently, not dramatically, quietly, decisively. The shift you must make. From I'll start when I feel ready to I'll start because it's time. From I need confidence to I need consistency. From I'll wait until I'm sure to I'll adjust as I go. This shift unlocks movement. Discipline is built in motion, not in planning, not in waiting, not in thinking. Motion. You don't think your way into discipline, you move your way into it. Chapter Takeaway. Waiting for readiness keeps discipline fragile. Moving without certainty makes it strong. But action alone is not enough, because if every action is controlled by emotion, discipline will still feel unstable. That's why the next chapter matters. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to detach from emotions while taking action, so discipline continues even when feelings fluctuate. Because the calmest discipline is the one that doesn't obey emotion at all.
Chapter 8. Detach from emotions while taking action. Your emotions feel powerful, immediate, convincing. They feel like instructions. They are not. They are information, nothing more. And the moment you stop treating emotions like commands, discipline becomes calm instead of exhausting. This chapter is where burnout starts to disappear, because burnout is not caused by work alone. It's caused by emotional over-engagement with work. Let's break this down. Emotions are weather, not orders. Emotions change constantly. Motivation rises and falls. Energy spikes and crashes. Confidence comes and goes. That's normal. But here's the mistake most people make. They assume emotions should dictate behavior. I don't feel like it today. I'm too tired. I'm not in the right headspace. This thinking makes you hand over control to something unstable. Weather does not decide whether the train runs. It just changes the conditions. Disciplined people operate the same way. Discipline continues whether you feel like it or not. This is not about suppressing emotions. It's about not obeying them. You can feel tired, unmotivated, doubtful, frustrated, and still act, not aggressively, not emotionally, calmly. Discipline is neutral action. No drama, no inner debate, just execution. Emotional action is what creates burnout. This is critical. Burnout doesn't come from effort, it comes from emotional friction. When every task feels like a battle, when every action requires motivation, when your mood decides your output, you're burning fuel just to start. That constant emotional resistance is exhausting. Detachment removes that resistance. Detachment is not apathy. Let's be clear. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It means you don't let emotions hijack behavior. You care enough to act even when it's uncomfortable. That's discipline. Caring deeply, acting calmly. The most disciplined people feel less, not more, while working. This surprises people. They assume discipline is intensity. It's not. It's quiet, measured, almost boring. No hype, no inner speeches, no emotional spikes, just doing what's scheduled. That emotional neutrality is what makes discipline sustainable. You don't need to feel good to do good work. This needs repetition. You do not need motivation, excitement, confidence. You need a decision that was already made. When action is pre-decided, emotions lose influence. Emotions lose power when they're not debated. Most emotional exhaustion comes from arguing with feelings. I shouldn't feel this tired. I need to feel motivated. Why don't I feel focused? That argument drains energy. Detachment says, noted, moving anyway. No resistance, no judgment, just action. Calm action beats emotional action. Emotional action is reactive. Calm action is deliberate. Reactive action burns energy fast. Deliberate action conserves it. This is why disciplined people last longer. They don't push emotionally. They proceed mechanically. You can feel tired and still act calmly. This is one of the most powerful shifts. Tired does not mean stop. Tired means adjust intensity, not quit. You don't need peak energy. You need baseline execution. This prevents burnout, because burnout often comes from all or nothing thinking. Emotional detachment creates stability. When emotions control action, output fluctuates, consistency breaks, guilt builds. When emotions are detached, output stabilizes, identity strengthens, stress drops. You stop riding emotional highs and lows. You become steady. Discipline is a practice, not a feeling. This matters. If discipline depends on feeling disciplined, it will collapse. Discipline is practiced regardless of internal state. Just like brushing your teeth, no emotional debate, no motivation required. That's the level of neutrality you're aiming for. Emotions pass, systems remain. Feelings are temporary, systems are permanent. When you rely on systems, emotions don't matter as much. This is why detachment pairs perfectly with systems. You don't ask how you feel, you follow the structure. Detachment makes discipline kinder, not harsher. This is important. People think detachment is cold. It's not. It removes self-judgment. It removes emotional punishment. You don't shame yourself for feeling tired. You just adjust and continue. That's self-respect. The goal is not to feel good, it's to be consistent. Feel-good discipline is fragile. Consistent discipline is powerful. Consistency doesn't care about emotions, it cares about execution. And execution becomes easier when emotions are no longer in charge. Practical shift to practice daily. When resistance appears, stop asking, "How do I feel?" Ask instead, "What's the smallest calm action I can take right now?" That question bypasses emotion and keeps momentum alive. Discipline is boring, and that's why it works. Real discipline is uneventful. No drama, no inner war, just quiet follow-through. Once you detach emotionally, discipline stops feeling heavy. It starts feeling normal. Chapter takeaway. Emotions are temporary. Systems are permanent. Discipline lives in what you do, not how you feel. But even calm action can drift if there's no direction. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to set non-negotiable standards so discipline doesn't just continue, it sharpens. Because when standards are clear, discipline becomes automatic.
Chapter 9. Track progress or lose momentum. Discipline is invisible if you don't see it. Effort feels endless. Progress feels imaginary, and momentum disappears quietly. Most people fail not because they don't act, they fail because they never measure what matters. Here's the truth: what isn't measured fades. Ambiguity kills momentum. Think about your last few weeks. How much actually changed? You may have worked hard. You may have followed routines. You may have done everything right. But if you can't see it clearly, your brain doesn't register victory. No sense of accomplishment, no internal reward, no motivation compounding. And that's why people burn out silently. The effort exists, but the reward is invisible. Discipline without visibility is fragile. Progress tracking builds psychological reward. The brain loves evidence, every check mark, every number, every visible change. It says, "I did this, I am capable, this works." Even small progress triggers chemical reward, dopamine. Even tiny wins compound over time. Even a simple habit tracked consistently reinforces identity. That's why tracking is not optional. It's part of discipline. The most disciplined people measure relentlessly. They don't rely on memory or feelings. They track time spent on tasks, quantitative results, completion rates,
Behavioral consistency. Measurement removes guesswork. It removes doubt. It removes procrastination. When progress is visible, momentum survives stress, fatigue, and doubt. Discipline strengthens when results become visible. Unmeasured effort feels like spinning wheels. Measured effort feels like rocket fuel. Imagine two people. Person A works hard but never tracks. Person B works the same amount but measures every action. Person B sees growth. Person A sees nothing. Which person is more likely to keep going? Visible results create accountability, first to yourself, then to reality. Common mistake: tracking too much or too little. Some people fail to track at all. Others drown in data. Neither works. Tracking must be simple. It must give clarity. It must reinforce progress over perfection. How to track without being slave to it. Pick metrics that matter. Track daily or weekly. Focus on completion, not perfection. Review consistently. Simple tracking compounds. Complex tracking overwhelms. Less is more when clarity is the goal. Momentum dies in ambiguity. Ambiguity creates doubt. I think I'm improving. I hope I'm doing enough. I'm not sure this works. These thoughts destroy momentum. Tracking removes ambiguity. Clarity protects momentum, and momentum accelerates everything. Visible progress reinforces identity. Remember Chapter 2, discipline is identity, not effort. Visible progress strengthens identity. It says, I am the kind of person who shows up. I am the kind of person who delivers. I am the kind of person who improves. No progress recorded? Identity weakens. Doubt grows. Consistency slips. Tracking bridges effort and identity. Tracking creates self-accountability. Without external accountability, internal tracking is the only safeguard. Daily logs, habit streaks, weekly reviews. Every record tells you the truth. Did you follow through? Did you deliver? Did you maintain momentum? Truth is motivating. Truth prevents rationalization. Progress is a compound asset. Small, tracked actions add up. 1% improvement per day seems tiny, but over weeks, months, years, massive. Discipline compounds through visible results. Invisible effort does not. The psychology of check marks. Checking a box is simple, but psychologically profound. It tells your brain you are capable, you are consistent, your action matters. Consistency becomes effortless when reinforced visually. Failure to track allows chaos to creep in. Without measurement, you misjudge effort, you misjudge progress, you justify slacking, you miss early warning signs. Chaos grows silently. Momentum collapses before you realize it. Tracking is not about perfection, it's about transparency. The goal is visibility, not judgment. You don't track to shame yourself. You track to guide yourself, to adjust, to reinforce, to maintain unbroken momentum. Make tracking part of your system. Combine Chapter 3 systems with Chapter 9 tracking. Pre-decide what success looks like. Record it consistently. Review and adjust. Let evidence guide action. Systems plus tracking equals unstoppable momentum. Chapter takeaway. Momentum is fragile without measurement. Visible results keep it alive. But momentum alone is not mastery. If your habits are weak, momentum will be shallow. The next chapter will teach you how to strengthen habits at the root so that momentum is not only maintained, it accelerates itself. Because real discipline compounds when habits are both visible and unbreakable.
Chapter 10. Protect your energy like a strategist. Discipline is not just about doing the right things, it's about not wasting energy on the wrong things. Most people think burnout comes from doing too much. It doesn't. Burnout comes from overexposure, not overwork, from leaks that quietly drain your focus, motivation, and willpower. Energy is a finite resource, and if you don't guard it, no system, habit, or willpower stack can save you. This chapter teaches you to treat your energy like a strategist treats ammunition, precious, limited, and decisive. Not everything deserves your attention. Attention is energy. Every notification, conversation, or task you indulge in consumes mental fuel. Ask yourself, does this move me closer to my goals? Does this align with my priorities? Will this matter tomorrow, next week, or next year? If the answer is no, it's a leak. Ignore it, delete it, remove it. Discipline is built in what you choose to focus on, not what you suffer through. Energy leaks destroy discipline silently. Energy leaks are invisible killers. Endless scrolling, reactive communication, overthinking, emotional entanglement. They feel harmless at first, a small cost, a quick distraction, but day after day, these leaks accumulate. Your focus drops, your action quality declines, consistency slips. By the time you notice, momentum is gone. Prevent leaks, guard energy, discipline becomes sustainable. Saying no is a disciplined skill. Most people avoid saying no. They fear rejection. They fear missing opportunities. They fear looking selfish. This is how energy drains happen. Every unnecessary yes steals time and focus. Every trivial commitment adds friction. Every distraction breaks the chain. Learning to say no is not rude, it's strategic. It protects the most powerful resource you have, your energy. No is not denial. No is defense. Energy management is strategic, not moral. You don't have to help everyone all the time. You don't have to answer every message instantly. You don't have to be available 24/7. Discipline is choosing battles wisely. It's attacking when energy is high. It's conserving when energy is low. A strategist knows the value of every resource. So should you. Overexposure, not overwork, breaks people. People brag about working 16-hour days. They ignore the fact they're constantly overstimulated, notifications pinging, meetings without purpose, emails piling up, emotional entanglement. The body and mind can survive hard work. They can't survive constant exposure to distraction and friction. Discipline fails not when you push, but when you drain without purpose. Energy is a lever, not a battery. Think of energy like a lever. Used correctly, it amplifies your output. Used poorly, it dissipates silently. Small, targeted actions done with focus beat heroic effort done chaotically. Your energy dictates output quality, not hours, not intensity, not willpower. Protecting energy is the highest form of leverage. The signal versus noise rule. Not everything is meaningful. Signal equals what moves you forward. Noise equals what keeps you busy. Disciplined people ruthlessly remove noise. Noise feels urgent but rarely matters. Your attention is finite. Treat it like gold. Spend it on signal, not noise. Proactive energy guarding. Guarding energy is not reactive. It's a strategy built in advance. Schedule focused blocks and defend them. Limit social media and unnecessary calls and meetings. Batch low-value tasks. Delegate or automate repetitive tasks. Every leak prevented multiplies consistency, focus, and discipline. Discipline requires emotional boundaries. Energy doesn't just leak from tasks, it leaks from people. Not all conversations are productive, not all criticism is useful, not all drama deserves attention. Disciplined people protect their emotional bandwidth. They engage selectively.
They distance from toxic energy quietly but firmly. Say no to preservation, yes to strategic action. Discipline is not doing less, it's doing less of the wrong things consistently and more of the right things consistently. Saying no is not avoidance, it's strategic allocation, it's focus protection, it's power management. Energy protection is identity-based. Remember Chapter 2, discipline is identity, not effort. Who you are determines what you tolerate. A disciplined identity automatically avoids unnecessary drains. Energy preservation becomes a habit, not a struggle. The quiet power of consistency. Energy leaks are subtle. Discipline that ignores them is fragile. Protect energy and you stop forcing action. You move calmly, steadily, predictably. Your systems, habits, and routines operate at full capacity. Discipline becomes effortless because it's no longer fighting invisible drains. Chapter Takeaway. Discipline is amplified by energy, not effort alone. Protect energy like a strategist. It is your most valuable asset. But energy alone is not enough. Even focused, preserved energy can be wasted if it's not directed properly. The next chapter will show you how to align every action with your highest priorities so that your preserved energy creates unstoppable results. Because strategy plus energy plus action is the formula for ruthless, sustainable discipline.
Chapter 11. Become boringly consistent. Most people want discipline to look exciting. They imagine heroic effort, epic motivation, big wins every day. That's the story society sells. It's wrong. Discipline does not look impressive. It looks repetitive. It looks boring. It looks inevitable. If you want extraordinary results, you don't need spectacular days. You need reliable ones. Discipline is boring, not heroic. Here's the truth. The world applauds the climactic moments, but transformation is built in the quiet, boring repetition. Waking up at the same time, even when tired. Completing small daily tasks without fanfare. Showing up when motivation is absent. These are not Instagram-worthy. They are not dramatic. They are inevitable. Boring consistency compounds faster than sporadic heroism. Boring routines create extraordinary outcomes. Think about mastery. Top athletes train the same movements every day. World-class writers write a little every morning. Successful entrepreneurs make small, daily improvements relentlessly. It's not luck, it's repetition, it's routine, it's boring. Extraordinary results come not from intensity, but from continuous action applied consistently over time. You don't need variety, you need reliability. Variety is seductive. It feels exciting. It tricks the mind into thinking you're being productive. But variety without reliability is chaos. Switching systems constantly kills momentum. Chasing new hacks prevents mastery. Waiting for better days delays growth. Reliability, not novelty, compounds results. When your actions are predictable, results are inevitable. The disciplined person is inevitable. Discipline is not intensity, it is inevitability. People with strong discipline are predictable in their actions. They show up every day. They execute regardless of mood. They follow through even when progress is invisible. You don't need to be impressive, you need to be unstoppable. Being inevitable means momentum protects you from willpower failures. It means your habits carry you, not your emotions. Consistency builds identity. Remember Chapter 2, discipline is identity. Consistency reinforces identity. Small, repeated actions say, I am reliable.
Patterns form a backbone of self-trust. Identity strengthens, making future discipline automatic. When your identity is solid, you don't debate doing the work. You are the kind of person who does the work, boringly, every day. Why people resist boring consistency? Because boredom feels like stagnation. I'm doing the same thing every day. Will it work? I need more excitement to stay motivated. Routine feels constraining. This is false. Routine is freedom disguised as boredom. When tasks are boring, the mind is free to focus on mastery, not novelty. When the routine is predictable, discipline becomes effortless. Make your habits invisible to resistance. The more boring a habit, the less friction it creates. Brush your teeth every morning without thinking. Journal or plan at the same time daily. Start work at a pre-decided hour. Consistency eliminates debate. Debate drains energy. Energy fuels action. Boringly consistent action equals unstoppable discipline. Long-term transformation is boring. Transformation is not instant. It is invisible at first. Small, repeated actions appear insignificant. Weeks feel stagnant. Months feel uneventful. But each day builds. Each repetition compounds. The boring work becomes extraordinary. Your results will look magical to outsiders, but you know the secret. Boring consistency created them. Stop chasing novelty. Start chasing reliability. Novelty is exciting but unreliable. Reliability is boring but unstoppable. If you want a life of predictable success, commit to the same systems daily. Eliminate distractions that break routine. Focus on progress, not appearance. The results are inevitable, and the momentum is unstoppable. The compound effect of boringness. Repetition compounds like interest in a bank account. Day 1, small step. Day 30, visible improvement. Month 6, a breakthrough. Year 1, extraordinary transformation. Boring consistency is silent, invisible, and relentless. It multiplies quietly until it overwhelms everything else. Discipline is not about being heroic, it's about being unstoppable. Intensity burns, boredom builds. Being heroic once is exciting, being inevitable forever is powerful. This is the final piece of the puzzle. If you can combine systems, habits, energy management, emotional detachment, and consistency, you stop relying on luck, motivation, or bursts of willpower. Discipline becomes inevitable. Chapter Takeaway. Boring consistency compounds silently. Momentum strengthens identity. Results become visible. But even inevitable discipline can collapse if you forget why you started. The next chapter will teach you how to anchor your discipline to purpose so that your unstoppable routines are also meaningful and the energy, consistency, and systems you've built never go to waste.
Chapter 12. Discipline is freedom, not restriction. Most people think discipline is a cage, a list of rules, a set of restrictions. They imagine giving up pleasure, saying no to everything fun, living under a constant internal drill sergeant. That is not discipline. That is punishment. That is suffering. Real discipline is freedom. It liberates. It clarifies. It creates calm, confidence, and unstoppable momentum. Structure creates mental peace. Discipline is not about adding stress. It's about creating structure. Structure reduces uncertainty. Structure eliminates chaos. Structure removes the mental energy spent deciding what to do next.
When your day, your systems, your actions are structured, you know what comes next. You know how to respond. You know that you will act. Chaos disappears. Mental peace appears. Discipline is not restriction, it's calm certainty. The disciplined mind is calm, not chaotic. Think about a person without discipline, reactive to every email, message, and impulse, overwhelmed by small decisions, constantly debating what to do. Now compare to a disciplined mind. Decisions are pre-decided by systems. Actions follow routines. Emotions don't hijack behavior. One is chaotic, one is calm. Discipline reduces friction in life, not increases it. It's the ultimate form of self-management. Freedom comes from knowing you'll show up. Freedom is not the absence of rules. Freedom is the confidence that you will follow through no matter what. When you know you will act, you don't procrastinate, you don't stress over uncertainty, you don't waste energy debating trivial matters. This confidence allows you to focus on bigger things: creativity, relationships, health, and personal growth. Discipline gives you the power to choose because you know you can handle whatever arises. Discipline creates choices, not limits. Ironically, the more disciplined you are, the more options you have. You can take risks because you've built reliability. You can invest energy in high-leverage tasks because low-value tasks are automated or eliminated. You can say yes selectively because saying no to distractions is effortless. Discipline is the foundation of freedom, not its enemy. The power of internal trust. The most liberating aspect of discipline is trust in yourself. You don't need external validation. You don't need constant motivation. You don't need perfect conditions. You know you'll show up. You know you will act. You know you'll keep momentum. That internal trust is the ultimate freedom. Nothing external can shake it. Discipline reduces decision fatigue. Every choice you automate or structure reduces mental load. Morning routines eliminate what to wear, what to eat, when to exercise. Systems for work eliminate what to tackle first. Habits remove the daily debate over small actions. Less decision fatigue equals more energy for important, high-impact choices. This is freedom in its purest form. When discipline is alignment, not constraint. Discipline becomes a cage only when you follow systems blindly. You pursue goals that don't matter. You overcomplicate routines. Discipline becomes freedom when it aligns with your values. Your energy is protected. Your identity is reinforced. Your actions produce visible results. Your habits compound effortlessly. Then work stops feeling like work. Life feels lighter. Burnout cannot survive. Structure frees you to create. With discipline comes clarity. With clarity comes focus. With focus comes creation. You can build, innovate, and grow because you're no longer reactive. You're no longer exhausted. You're no longer at the mercy of emotion. Discipline doesn't confine. It frees your mind to act at full capacity. Discipline is a choice, not a burden. You decide to live reactively, draining energy every day, or to live proactively, following systems, preserving energy, building momentum. When you choose the latter, discipline becomes liberation. It gives you options, clarity, and confidence. It makes you inevitable. It allows you to act calmly in any situation. Final takeaway. Discipline is the ultimate tool of liberation. It doesn't punish, it doesn't restrict, it doesn't burn you out. It empowers, it gives clarity, it builds confidence, it preserves energy, it compounds over time. Discipline is freedom because it allows you to live life on your terms. When your actions are structured, consistent, and aligned with purpose, nothing can stop you. Remember this, the more disciplined you are, the freer you become. And that is the life every listener of this audiobook is capable of building.
Closing.
Now that you've heard it, the discipline is not pain, but clarity. It's freedom. It's the quiet force that compounds invisibly until your life changes completely. From stopping pointless effort to making discipline your identity, building systems, lowering the bar, mastering recovery, protecting energy, detaching from emotions, tracking progress, and becoming boringly consistent, every chapter was a step toward unstoppable, sustainable transformation. Now it's your turn. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now. Start small, start simple, start today. Take control of your time, guard your energy, show up when it's uncomfortable, build momentum, make it visible, make it inevitable. Discipline is your choice. Your freedom is waiting. Decide to act, decide to commit, decide to become the person who doesn't quit. Be the person who shows up. The life you want isn't out there. It's built in the small, consistent actions you take right now. This is your moment. Start, keep going, and never look back.